Right, in this final video, we're going to look at how to texture and light the scene and then how to render it. We're going to render the scene. So first of all, this is the current viewport that I'm in, and you can see that because it's got the dull yellow line around the outside. So just go into the camera viewport and middle click. And you can see now, as well as the bright yellow line, which is the extent of the image that you'll see on the camera, you also have a dull yellow line going around the outside telling you that's current. And then come up here to the teapot with the lightning strike and click it. Now you don't have to wait for the whole render to complete because you can see what it's going to look like. So just click cancel over here. And you can see that it's taking on the colors of the viewport and it's made them a bit shinier. But it's not particularly inspiring to look at. So let's first of all, we're going to fix this by giving it a nice white background and a white floor, and then we're going to look at some materials to put on top of these different letters. So, let's close that down. First thing to do then is if you press 8 on your keyboard, the number 8, not F8, you get this environment and effects panel come up, and we're going to change the background color from black to white, like so. And then close that down. We'll have another look at this again later when we do the lighting. So we now have a white background color. And now we're going to bring the material editor up so we can create some materials for your scene. So press M for the material editor and you get this thing come up. You may get something that looks like this. If you get this, try not to learn to use this one because it's old-fashioned and out of date. So if you go back to modes and just choose Slate Material Editor and get this. Yours will probably look like this. It will have this bar down the side, which I choose to turn off just using this bit here. Just gives you a bit more space to work. So now, to get a material up, just right-click in the middle, choose Materials, General, Physical Material. This is what we'll use for most things, certainly in the first year. Click that and you'll get this come up with all of the different settings. Now what's happening here is these are all nodes that you can connect different maps and things to. We're not going to worry about that, so we can hide all those by clicking this button up here with the little sort of triangle hat on top of it, and it will roll that up. The other thing to notice is that it has a dotted grey line around the outside. That means that this material is the one whose values are being shown here. Now we're going to make a simple, nice basic material, but even though it's a simple one, we need to put it into advanced mode. And what that does is it separates out reflections and base color. So we'll start off by picking a base color, like so. Let's pick a nice kind of blue color, like that. And then we are going to turn the reflections down to 0 because we don't want it to be shiny blue. We just want it to be flat blue. And then we're going to apply it to one of our objects. And to do that, you can just grab this pip at the end and drag it out and then let go when your cursor is on top of the object that you want it to color. So we've got that there. Now we're going to make a very similar material, but white, for the floor. So rather than redoing all that again, we'll just make a copy of this one. If you hold down Shift and drag the material, you get a new copy. And you can see that the copy now has the grey dots around the outside, which means that these are the parameters. The other thing you might notice is that this thumbnail here has little corners highlighted and this one doesn't. The little corners means that this is being used in the scene, and this one doesn't have corners, which means it isn't being used yet. So all I'm going to do now is change my base color to white and drag that out onto the floor. Okay, straight away you can see it starting to look like a real scene. Now we're going to make one a bit more interesting again. So let's make another copy of the blue material. This time we're going to make it sort of purpley, pinky colour. Like that. A bit brighter. Okay. And this time we're going to give it some reflections. So give it a reflection value of 1. Give it a metalness value of 1 to make it look metallic. And give it a roughness of 0.5. You can see in the little thumbnail here, that's giving you quite a nice effect. And we're going to put that on this letter. Right, I'm just going to make another copy of the blue one. This time I'm going to make it green. But I'm actually going to make it a kind of green glass material. So if I take this green color, I can copy it. I'm going to paste it into the transparency slot. And then I'm going to turn the transparency up to 1, turn the base color down to 0, and turn reflections up to 1. And that will give us a kind of green transparent glass material. It doesn't show up very well in the viewport. But let's now just close down our material editor and give it another render. Let's see what it looks like now. Come over here and cancel. So that's the materials. You can play with those to your heart's content, obviously. We are also going to put some lights into the scene. So if we go over to our Create panel over here and choose Lights, which is the third button along, shaped like a little light bulb, just click Free Light, just agree to that, and put in a light in the scene just there. Okay, it's a bit difficult to see because it's all very bright. So let's just go back to our environment panel. So press 8 again. This time we're going to use it to control our brightness of the image. So down here where it says physical camera exposure, what we're going to do is we're just going to change this down, and you can see that the camera view on the left is changing in brightness. So change it up and down until you get something which looks about the right level of brightness. And then you can do the same using this global exposure value for all the other viewports. So this time I'm just going to turn it up a bit so it's easier to see, like so. You can see now I can work on this quite happily without any problem. Now I can see the light there, so I'm just going to move the light up like so. Move it in a bit closer. Right, that's starting to light up my scene nicely. You can see there's a shadow being cast over here. You can see that in the camera as well. But one light is never normally enough, so I'm actually going to use Shift and drag, just like I did with the material, to make a copy of the light there. And then I'm going to make 2 more copies of the lights in front, like so. Then I'm going to vary the lighting a bit. So I'm just going to move this one down a bit more in front of the K, like so, to give us a nice highlight there. Just going to move this one a little bit up, more above. This one a little bit lower, just to give it some variation in the lighting. It's still a little bit bright, isn't it? So I'm just going to go back into here and turn that down a bit so I can work a bit more clearly. The other thing I'm going to do is, because these lights emit from a point, which means that they're going to cast strong, harsh shadows. So I'm just going to go to my Modify panel, scroll down here, and you'll see Emit Light from Shape, and it says Point at the moment. On the 3 of them, I'm just going to change that to a sphere to make the shadows softer. And this one in the front here, in front of the K, I'm going to leave as a point, because I want that to be a nice sharp light for the reflections on the metal. Right, so I've got some lights in the scene. Let's just give that a quick test render again to see what it looks like now. Oh, that's the wrong viewport. Cancel. Go to this viewport, hit render. Well, it's very bright, so I can cancel that. I will go back to 8 again, my exposure settings, and I will use my physical camera exposure here just to change the one in the viewport down a little bit, and you can see a preview of it there. Close that and re-render. Okay, so you can cancel that. At this point you might want to save your work, and then we're going to render this out as a sequence of images. Ultimately it's going to be a video, but we never render out as a video, because if it crashes halfway through you lose everything. And rendering will take a while. It will probably take a couple of minutes per frame to render this at the moment. We've got 100 frames, so that's going to be 200 or so minutes, so 3 to 4 hours to render this little animation out. So up here where the teapot with the lightning strike is, if you go along and do the teapot with the cog, it brings your render settings. You need to choose active time segment here. You need to make sure, like we set up at the beginning, that it's running on HD video, and ideally 1080 by 1920. But if you find the render time is too slow on your computer, you could go down to 1280 by 720, and that would pretty much halve the render time. Then down a bit further to where it says render output, we choose files, and we decide what we're going to call it. So we will call it name, and we will save it as a PNG image format, and just automatic there is what yours probably says already. So hit save, just OK that, and then you've actually got, so long as you've got your active time segment ready, you are able to hit render, and then you sit and wait. Now we've got a rendered image sequence, and there's two ways you can convert that into a video. The first is if you've got Adobe Media Encoder. Adobe Media Encoder will recognize an image sequence as a video, and you can convert it to any format. But if you don't have the Adobe products, then we can do it using different methods too. So within 3ds Max, we can go to the rendering menu, and down at the bottom, you can choose Compare Media in RAM Player. And then we can import the image sequence that we had. So where it says Channel A, click the little Open button, and it should come directly to your Render Output folder. Just pick the first image in the list. It should automatically tick the sequence button down here, and click Open and OK, and OK again. And it will load in the entire image sequence, frame by frame, into the RAM, to allow you to play it forwards and backwards and everything like so. Now you can't zoom in on RAM Player, unfortunately, so we can't see the whole thing, but we're only going to use it for exporting a sequence. If I hit the play button here, you can see it plays the sequence, as much bit as we can see in that screen. So hit the save button here, and then we can save it out as an AVI there, and I will just call it name, and just click the setup and make sure it says uncompressed, and OK and save. Now you don't actually get any feedback of when it's done, so I like to just move the window while it's doing, and wait. And when you see that the computer catches up, the window will move, and you know that it's saved out. There we go, the window moved, which means that is now saved out. If I go into My Documents, I've been using the default project folder, so just in My Documents and go into the 3ds Max folder there, and then into Render Output, You'll see now there's all of the different images that we rendered out. The IFL file is an image file list which Max made just now when you imported things into RAM Player, and the AVI that we've just made as well. Let's just play that. Now, that AVI at the moment you can see is nearly 800 megs and it's only 4 seconds long. That's because it's uncompressed. So what we need to do now is we need to compress that, close RAM Player and agree to that. Just need to compress that up. Now again, if you've got Adobe Media Encoder, you can do that directly. If you're running on freeware, a good one to download is any video converter, or AVC. Bring up your list of formats here. Slide down until you get to Common Video Formats and choose the Customize MP4 Movie. Then we go into the settings here. We leave these settings together, Quality Normal, Video Options. You want to set the video bitrate to about 5000 to get reasonable quality. The higher your bitrate is, the larger your file will be. And audio options, we don't have any audio, so I can actually click disable on that. Then I just drag my video in and click convert now, and it will go ahead and convert the video. And it will open it up in your videos folder, any video converter, MP4, and you see now you've got this new video, and this one is now only 1.6 megabytes. And that ends the foundation learning for animation. I look forward to catching up with you in lessons and moving on to the next step.